Chapter 4. A man is the sum of his false memories. While still cursing her heels, Anji tried to count her blessings, and thanked goodness that she'd chosen casual slacks yesterday. Was it only yesterday? No, surely not. She'd have to get out her scion and work it out. Anyway, whenever it was, she was glad she'd not gone for a suit. It might have given her a psychological advantage in the earlier cross-examination, but a restrictive skirt would have made things twice as bad as they already were. Her feet would be hitting the ground twice as often for a start. Mind you, now she came to think of it, she couldn't keep wearing the same outfit forever, could she? Did the TARDIS have a wardrobe? Or at least a laundry? Thank goodness she had kept spare knickers and a roll-on deodorant in her bag. She tried to surreptitiously sniff her right armpit. Still bearable. How much longer it would stay that way, though, with all the toing and froing she was doing. She wasn't particularly keen on walking in general. 15 minutes to Canary Wharf Tube in the morning, up and down the platform a few times, and then 3 minutes to the office at the other end. Same in reverse in the evening, with only a stroll to a restaurant or a sandwich shop in between. Strictly A to B functional stuff. No time for blisters to develop. And definitely no dinosaurs. She was dealing with it now in an "it's not quite real" sense. She was outside her body, watching herself as though she were in a movie or a dream. There she was, just there, dressed in designer casuals, a Gucci bag over her shoulder, trekking across a future prehistoric plain with 3 adolescent boys. There were monsters all around, and yes, theoretically they could kill her, and she should be terrified, but she couldn't shake the feeling that if they did attack, a sign would spring up saying, "Game over," and real life would begin again. At the same time, her relations with the 3 boys seemed real and direct. Zequathon and Beezy tended to lead the way, with Anji and Zernik paired behind. She was feeling very protective of the red-headed boy, and she'd revised her opinions of the others too. They were loud and a bit aggressive, but basically good kids. Even Beezy, who still really wasn't her type of person, but was winding her up less now, because they had to get on. These boys were all risking their lives to save someone they didn't know, so she had to like them. She'd asked Zernik to tell her about life on this strange, past-obsessed, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant-type world. She still didn't really get it. It didn't seem that different to her Earth in a lot of ways. Fairly impersonal, with the welfare of a few more important than that of the masses, though the few preached the opposite. Yup. Those in power were tolerated, if not respected, by most citizens. Definitely yup. But even when the people disapproved of something, only a few, like the Anji boys, actually did something about it. Yup. And signing the odd petition at university didn't count, she told herself ruefully. A reasonable percentage of new Jupitans, she extrapolated from Zernik's impassioned Anji sales pitch, thought that Earth was revered too much, moaned about it a bit in bars, and thought it was a bit much that Earth didn't even send them the odd aid package. And if they had to choose, they'd be happy to go with the whole New Jupiter own identity thing. But no one was forcing them to choose. So they merrily plodded on their own sweet way and abided by the President's rules. Still sounding very familiar. There had been a few more rumblings than usual lately, and yes, it was possible that rebellion had been in the air, but the promise of Earthworld and the revenue it was expected to bring had successfully crushed them. Bread and circuses, thought Anji. People didn't change. The details were different, though. There were theories about the presidential succession. it being a hereditary position and the president's children apparently insane and confined to the palace. And the attitude to death, as seen in the casual acceptance of capital punishment, seemed medieval too. And she hadn't seen anyone apart from herself who looked other than white in appearance, which was a bit worrying. Terrifying thought. Were they all extinct? No, that was silly, because thinking about it, there had been no comments, no pointing, not even a question. And that implied A, she wasn't the future equivalent of a dodo, and B, a degree of generic tolerance here that she was very pleased to see, and actually a far cry from her own time, where one was always aware of differences, whether in a positive or negative or an "of course it doesn't matter" kind of way. This was obviously just a white-dominated area. The new Jupiter, Buckinghamshire or Surrey, rather than its North London. There was a teenage blonde girl watching them from under a tree. Anji was suddenly back in the game. The girl looked rather like a young Drew Barrymore, but wearing a leopard skin leotard. The three boys stopped dead in their tracks. "Oh gosh," said Zernick. "That's one of the mad princesses." "No," said Anji. "It's an android built to look like one of the mad princesses, remember? It thinks it's a cave person. It won't bother us, and if it does, you can zap it with that android zapper thing. Come on!" They carried on towards the girl. Anji was almost amused to see that the three boys, even the bluff Zequathon, seemed more nervous of a replicant adolescent girl than they did of the dirty great full-of-teeth dinosaurs they'd passed earlier. The girl sauntered from under her tree to meet them. "Ugh, ugh," she said in a cultured voice, not befitting a cave person at all. "You're not supposed to be here. Are you Fitz's friends?" Anji's stomach did a strange leap. The game had changed. "Who wants to know?" said Zequathon. "I do." She opened her hand, showing them a device that looked like a TV remote control. "See this button here? That will summon all the androids in the area to this spot. And this red one? That will enrage them. They'll tear apart anything in their paths." Anji did not like being talked to like this, especially by stuck-up children. "Then you'll be torn apart too, or does that not worry you? You can just go into a garage for repairs." The girl laughed, raising the device. Anji turned. "Zernick, quick! Zap her!" The boy fumbled desperately with the silver box, pointing it at the girl. She froze, finger still poised over the controls. Anji waved a hand in front of her face. No reaction. "Thank goodness for that," she said. "Now, the question is, what was all that about? And how does she know about Fitz, anyway?" "He's our pet," said the girl. "Ha ha, fooled you!" And she pressed all the buttons at once. "So, the triplets' mother's not actually dead," said the doctor. "I don't think it technically counts as matricide in that case." "Doesn't matter," said one of the triplets gloomily. "Still our fault." "And you can hardly call her alive," said another. "So father doesn't care what it technically counts as." The doctor pondered. "Their father, forgive me if I don't refer to him as your father, seems to have singularly failed to be paternally understanding about this. I'm a great believer in showing people the errors of their ways, rather than just locking them up, you know. The triplets were very young, and if they didn't mean her harm—" "We loved Mother," said Android Asia simply. "Tell me about it," the doctor said. "Mother was a scientist," she told him. "They say we inherited our technical abilities from her, but her field was genetics, not robotics. Handstrom was the one who taught us robotics." "Handstrom? You really don't know anything, do you? Handstrom is Father's chief technician. He was the only person apart from Father who was allowed to visit Mother in her imprisonment. No, she hadn't done anything wrong, silly. It's an old Earth custom. A woman who wants to have children is kept in confinement until she has them. Mother was in confinement for years before she had us. We were allowed out for a while when we were young. We don't really remember it. We don't like New Jupiter, though. We wish we'd been born on Earth. We've read every book and seen every film about Earth that Father owns, and we think it's wonderful. Handsome says there are people on New Jupiter who don't like Earth. When we're the president, we're going to have them all killed. Yes, Father says he's going to execute them, but he never does. And anyway, he can only execute them if they've broken one of his laws. We're going to make lots more laws when we're the president. Mother didn't want us to be president, though. She didn't like us killing things. She was going to tell Father not to let us be president. That's why we killed her. We were very young, though. We don't really remember what happened. Mother was calling us. Then she was lying on the floor. Father and Handstrom found us with her, and she hasn't woken up since. We miss her. You don't have feelings, said the doctor. You only feel as if you do. Anji cursed her heels and her short legs again. She'd been here before. This was level 2 of the game. Level 1, caveman and pterosaur. Level 2, well, she didn't know what half these things were. Not that she was a dinosaur expert, but she was fairly confident that several had more basis in animation than in prehistoric reality. The bright pink polka dots were a bit of a giveaway. That detached bit of her mind was still telling her that being chased by cartoon-like monsters was just ridiculous. She was running away from things that wanted to kill her, and she was more irritated than scared. She could tell the boys were scared, though, and she, the token grown-up, had to deal with it. Poor Zernik was desperately trying not to show his terror in front of the other boys, and valiantly zapping any android that got too close. It was working too, but there was only one of him, and lots of them. What was really annoying Anji was that she could still see in her mind that smug blonde kid laughing at them as she pressed the buttons. Why didn't the zapper work? Zernik had gasped as they had begun to run. It must be a pile of junk, Zequithon had said. Ditch it! No! Anji had dived back and rescued it. Don't just give up. Try it again. And, as the dinosaurs began to close in on them, he had done so. And this time, it had worked. Try to clear a path away from the barrier, Anji had instructed. They're trying to herd us towards it, so we'll be trapped. And again, brave Zernik had done his best. But inevitably, with monsters closing in from all sides, they were getting closer and closer to the invisible barrier. The edge. The point of no return. Game over. You have no lives left. Closer and closer. And then, there they were. The creatures were slightly wary of the barrier. They must have been programmed to avoid it. Or perhaps, as electrical beings, they could sense it, like forces repelling, or something like that. That, and the zapper, were giving Anji and the boys the tiniest degree of breathing space. Or, to be more accurate, the tiniest space in which to carry on breathing. Life, for a limited time only, Anji thought. Hurry, it won't be here for long. The dinosaurs moved in on them. And in the distance, Anji could see the blonde girl approaching, laughing. The android Asia had seemed subdued after telling her tale. She wandered off on her own, as the other two told their versions of the same story. They seemed to expect sympathy. They didn't get it. I came here because I thought there was some sort of robot revolt in progress, said the doctor. Obviously there isn't. Just your ridiculous selfish doubles causing mayhem. So, I really don't think there's much point in me spending another few hours while you lie on a completely unnecessary psychiatrist's couch. I have friends who may be in danger." Then Android Africa began laughing. Android Antarctica tried to shush her, but it was too late. The doctor had spun round to see what was so funny over his right shoulder, and saw the screen. "That's Anji!" he cried. "What are you doing?" "A dinosaur can break a person's arm with a single blow," said Africa. The doctor frowned. "I think you'll find that's swans." "Can I get a swan?" Africa asked Asia, who had returned. "Call those monsters off," the doctor ordered. "Shan't," said Africa. "Can't," said Asia. "Or won't?" asked the doctor. "How do the triplets get through the force barriers between zones?" "We have our ways." "You have your ways, or they have their ways. You really should stop confusing yourselves with the real things, you know." "They have their ways," said Asia, reluctantly. "Devices." "Oh, they have devices. Well, why didn't you say so?" The doctor moved closer to the images of Anji and the boys, nose almost touching the screen. "Of course, if they have devices, that makes all the difference." He spun back round to face the triplets. "But you can control things from here. I know you can." Direct to Asia. "Where did you go?" "I'm sorry?" "You left. Went into another room. Not long after the real princesses left the Roman arena. And now," he indicated the screen again, "at least one of them is in another zone. I'm sure they do have devices enabling them to walk around at will, but I doubt they'd leave it to chance in the event of, say, loss of device or risk of discovery. Now, I admit I'm skipping a number of steps between first premise and conclusion, but I think you are able to control the barriers from here. Excuse me." He darted past the girls behind the thrones, and there was a door. He found himself in a control room, a very small one, but the banks of switches, dials, and levers were unmistakable. A small screen showed a diagram, which he presumed was a map of the Earthworld zone barriers, and another echoed the scene that was shown in the throne room. "You didn't hide this very well," the doctor called back into the throne room. "Anyone could just walk in, and where would your secret identities be then?" "But no one ever visits us," said Asia, coming through to join him. "And as there are no big signs reading, 'We are really androids,' it's irrelevant anyway. What could anyone tell from this?" The doctor gave her a hard stare. "That you have rather more of an involvement in the centre than you should, which, considering all the suspicious deaths and so on, is quite enough to call for a further investigation, I should say. Now, tell me how to call off those monsters, or shut down the barriers." "No," said Asia. "Why not? What use is it to you if my friends are killed?" "My sister obviously has her reasons." "And how long do you think your sister will last once I've told people exactly what's going on here?" "And how long do you think you're going to last now you've said that? Africa?" But it wasn't Africa who came through the door. It was the 16th century executioner, complete with axe. Africa was behind him, though, laughing excitedly. A glimpse at the small screen showed the doctor that Anji and the boys were being herded against the barrier, prehistoric monsters approaching from all sides. He darted to the control bank and began to flick switches and swivel dials at random. "No!" cried Asia, and leapt on the doctor's back. He threw her effortlessly to the ground and continued his work. The executioner stalked closer. "Kill him!" called Africa. "Chop him into bits!" The doctor carried on pulling levers. "Little bits!" Africa added. The axe was raised above the android's head and began to sweep down. With all the time in the world, the doctor flicked a final switch, looked up at the plan to see one of the white lines wink off, glanced at the second image to watch the barrier shimmer into visibility, and Anji and the boys breaking for freedom. and stepped to one side as the axe fell. Sparks flew from the desk. On the screen, more white lines disappeared, one by one. The doctor admired the blue flicker that surrounded the android momentarily, then stepped over the fallen Asia, putting out a hand to help her up as he went, dodged round Africa in the doorway, and bounded through the throne room past a stricken and shrieking Antarctica. Once in the corridor, he began to run. Fitz. Fitz. Fitz? Confusion. Are you Fitz? Answer. Yes, no, unsure. Unsure. Anji and the Anji boys were running as fast as they could. The dinosaurs hadn't followed them immediately, confused by the breakdown of the barrier. Could androids get confused? Some sort of signal breakdown? And had given them a head start. If this was what Fitz had seen earlier, Anji could understand his enthusiastic reaction. Golden sun shone down onto fantastically sculpted sand dunes, filling some tiny inner part of Anji with a desperate longing for a bucket and spade. There was a massive pyramid just over there. Just how much of the planet did this theme park take up, anyway? Or could they possibly have bigger inside-than-out technology, like the Doctor's TARDIS? The boys were looking less stunned. They'd probably been here before on one of their sabotage missions. "This is incredible," Anji said. "Just incredible." "It's the Eggiput zone," Zernik informed her. Anji gave him a look. "Egypt. It's pronounced Egypt. And don't stop running." A cat streaked across their path, followed by another, and another. That was either lots of good luck or lots of bad luck, but Anji couldn't remember which. Maybe it didn't count if they weren't black cats, and she didn't believe in superstitious rubbish. And anyway, surely her luck couldn't get any worse, so it must mean good luck, in which case she decided she would believe in it after all. The dinosaurs, recovering from whatever confusion they may have suffered, were starting to chance their luck in this new environment. Would it be too much to hope they'd get distracted by the cats? Probably. And once they started the chase again... "Head for the pyramid!" Anji yelled. "We can't outrun them. We have to get somewhere they can't reach us." The three boys followed her lead obediently. "Won't the dinosaurs just follow us in?" Zernik gasped, running beside her as fast as he could. Anji half reached out a hand to help him along, but remembered at the last second that these were teenage boys, and Zernik would probably prefer to be eaten by a dinosaur than endure teasing from his mates. "Big pyramid, small door," Anji said. "I hope. Built strong enough to withstand dinosaur attacks. Also, I hope. And if they're going for the full mythical experience, we can also expect riddles and traps. And when was the last time you saw a dinosaur solve a logic problem?" "They're catching us up," cried Zekrathon. "Hurry!" The pyramid was close now. As they approached, Anji could see a large, almost dinosaur-large, creature guarding the entrance. It had the body of a very large lion, the wings of a huge eagle, and the head of a giant-sized woman. Its nose was missing. The dinosaurs were gaining on them as they reached the Sphinx. The creature opened its enormous mouth and began to speak. "What? It's a man!" yelled Anji without slowing down. "The answer's a man! Let us in!" The Sphinx, slightly confused, lumbered to one side. A stone door slid open in the pyramid, and the four tumbled through just as a velociraptor gained the path. They sank gratefully to the cold stone floor, catching their breath. Through the wall, they could distantly hear a booming female voice asking, "What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs by nightfall?" And some faint answering growls. So, obviously android dinosaurs could get confused after all. "I said, what walks on 4 legs? Ow! There's no need to bite just because you don't know the answer. You could just ask for a clue. Right, you've asked for it. These claws aren't just for decoration, you know. Anji looked at the boys. I'm on another planet in the far distant future, trapped inside an ancient Egyptian pyramid with 3 young terrorists, while a sphinx fights it out with a load of dinosaurs outside. They looked back at her inquiringly. Said Zernik. It's all right, you don't have to say anything, Anji reassured him. I just had to say it out loud, see how it sounded. What was all that guff about a man? Beezy asked. Do you need a man? Zequithon laughed. I had one, Anji said. He was killed yesterday. Silence. Come on, she said after a moment. With any luck, there'll be a secret exit somewhere, and we can get on with finding Fitz without princesses or rampaging monsters getting in our way. She looked round the bare stone chamber, realizing as she did that it was lit by a single bare light bulb, which slightly ruined the atmosphere of the place. I can't see any secret exits, said Zernik after a few minutes. They wouldn't be secret if you could, would they? Said Beezy sarcastically. Perhaps I'm wrong, said Anji. This might be all there is, in which case we can either wait till the fighting's died down outside and hope the dinosaurs have got sick of looking for us and left, or we could try to creep out now in the confusion and hope they're too distracted by that sphinx to notice. But how do we get out again? Asked Zernik. Beezy rolled his eyes. The same way we got in. Poor little Zernik doesn't understand doors. The door's gone, Zequithon interrupted. It ain't there any more. Anji looked. The stone door had slid back into place after them, and now there was no sign that it had ever been there. The wall fitted together perfectly, no hint of a join, no lever, no handle, nothing. 4 people, 50 cubic feet, no doors. Those cats would be meaning bad luck then, after all. The doctor had made it down 3 corridors and 2 flights of stairs before he was caught. Now, flanked by guards, he was standing in front of another throne. Upon it sat a dark-eyed man wearing a golden jumpsuit with a heavy-looking bejewelled crown on his dark head. The doctor held out a hand. "Hello," he said. "I'm the doctor. It's very nice to make your acquaintance. We didn't meet last time I was arrested." "Silence!" yelled a guard. "Why?" asked the doctor. "Do you have a headache? I'm so sorry. Maybe there's something I can do to help." "Silence!" yelled the guard again. The doctor was silent. A blond man, probably in his late 30s, stepped out from the shadows of the throne. He was tall and slim, and wore robes of deep green velvet that clashed with his bright blue irises. "So, you're the doctor," he said. "Yes," the doctor answered. "I said so a minute ago. I hope you don't mind my saying so, but I do like your dress." The man ignored him. "You are a known terrorist." "No, I'm not," muttered the doctor, "and have already been condemned to death. You have now added escaping lawful custody to the charges against you." "Oh dear," said the doctor. "Does that mean I'll have to be executed twice?" "I didn't meet you last time I was sentenced. In fact, I didn't meet anyone last time I was sentenced. In fact, I wasn't actually aware I had been sentenced. Some men just shouted at me for a bit and then threw me in a cell. Not a very sophisticated system. Earth would be ashamed of you. Trials on Earth take months sometimes. Anyway, I take it you," to the man on the throne, "are the President, Mr. John F. Hoover, which means you," to the blonde man, "are probably Handstrom. Am I right?" He didn't wait for an answer. "Now, before you sentence me to death again, could I just point out that there are some enraged prehistoric monsters rampaging around your star attraction, and all the barriers have gone down, irretrievably, I'm afraid. I was just on my way to sort it all out, but maybe you'd like to do it instead." "What lies are these?" asked the man who was almost certainly Handstrom. "Undoubtedly this is some saboteur's trick." No, it isn't, the doctor said patiently. There are a lot of mad androids in your theme park that are probably killing people, or they undoubtedly will be soon if they're not already. And there's nothing holding them back. I was just off to the centre to attempt to shut them down. The president spoke for the first time. Impossible. Hundreds of off-worlders will be arriving for the opening ceremony any day now. I don't think you mean impossible, the doctor corrected him. It's perfectly possible, I'm sure. You just don't want me to do it. You'd rather people died. This is ridiculous, the president cried. You are a saboteur. This is some sort of trick. You wish to ruin Earthworld for your own selfish reasons. Your story is patently absurd. You cannot possibly know what is happening in the centre. You don't visit your alleged daughters much, do you? Said the doctor. Handstrom visibly jumped, and for a moment it looked like he was going to hit the doctor. Alleged? He roared. What in the name of Earth are you implying? The doctor gazed steadily at him, as if daring the man to take another step towards him. I mean, he said, that they are not the president's daughters. Handstrom opened his mouth again, but the doctor continued before he could speak. They're not anyone's daughters. They are androids constructed by the president's actual daughters, and they have a full control panel for the centre, and also screens on which they can watch the mayhem their real-life counterparts are creating in Earthworld. Unfortunately, the control panel has been seriously damaged, which means that not only are the people in Earthworld in danger from the triplets, the real, live girls, may well now be in danger from the marauding androids. He swung round to stare up at the president. How much do your daughters mean to you? Will you risk disrupting your precious opening ceremony to save their lives? The president held the doctor's gaze, but when he spoke, it was to Handstrom. Go and check the girls. Find out if what he says is true. Handstrom left the room. This is meant for tourists, right? Anji said, tapping a stone wall. It shouldn't be that hard to figure out, then. They'd been tapping their way round the room, all four of them. It had turned out that the boys were fairly knowledgeable on the subject of secret passages, trapdoors, and what they called beast holes, apparently concealed spaces where, in the olden days of Earth, animals could hide from religious persecution. Anji had completely failed not to laugh. It was Zernik who found the clue, and he got quite excited about it. In a dim corner of the room, he had discovered a frieze of hieroglyphics. Anji was examining them, and trying to be encouraging. This will be easy to work out, she said. Now, I'm assuming they're not genuine Egyptian hieroglyphs, because even in my day, the average person wouldn't be able to interpret those. So the chances of your lot managing to sort that out when they've even lost the knowledge of what a priest hole is... And anyway, there aren't any eyes or eagles or men with their arms stuck out in funny ways. And they're unlikely to be a letter substitution code, because I assume if you're having off-worlders to visit, they'd speak different languages. So, I would think that they're general pictograms or ideograms rather than a form of alphabet. I mean, she clarified, as the boys looked bemused, that we have to interpret what the pictures are, and that'll tell us how to get out of here. So, let's see. The circle with lines coming out of it looks like a classic sun representation to me. Next one. Some sort of plant. Sun plant? It's got a flower, pointed out Zernik. Okay, sunflower. Hey, sunflower! That's actually a word. Can't quite see how it would be relevant, but what's the next one? A hand. The sunflower hand, marigold gloves. We have to do the washing up to get out of here? The boys looked at her anxiously. No, I'm just being silly. Okay, sunflower hand. What's next? A curly thing. Looks like a pig's tail. Sunflower hand tail? That makes no sense. Oh, I know, it's a spring. Do sunflowers come out in the spring? Or perhaps it is a plant after all, and we have to plant sunflowers in the spring by hand? That's it, of course. Plant sunflowers in the spring by hand. She looked triumphantly round. That's really good, said Zernick doubtfully. Very clever. How does it help, though? It must be a cryptic clue, Anji said. Double-layered. Once we've solved this, it'll tell us how to get out. Only, continued Zernick bashfully, I was just thinking, if it's not a double-layered cryptic clue, and accepting that visual puns don't work in all languages, but, well, I wondered if it might mean light bulb 5 twists. The sun gives a light, you see, and that plant does seem to be growing out of a bulb, and... Oh, yes, said Anji, feeling a bit silly. Could someone give the light bulb 5 twists, please? And be careful not to burn yourself. In the end, BZ had to give Zequathon a leg up in order for them to reach the light bulb. 1, 2, 3. Nothing seemed to be happening. Anji made a surreptitious visual check of the room, just in case there really were some sunflowers that they'd failed to spot earlier. 4. Was that a faint creaking sound from somewhere below them? 5. And the floor suddenly tipped 60 degrees, and with shrieks of shock, the loudest from Zequathon, who was suddenly suspended in mid-air, the 4 were careering down the cold stone surface towards the black depths below, as if it were the biggest, scariest slide in the world. I am not Fitz. If I am not Fitz, what is Fitz? Fitz is dead. The Fitz thing told himself, itself, that it had to pull himself, itself, together. The real Fitz hadn't been much of a one for philosophy, apart from, if it looks female, try to shag it. But he had been aware of the dictum, I think, therefore I am, and he, well, not he, but the Fitz-shaped object, was definitely thinking, mainly about how he wasn't a real person. So the very act of thinking about not being real made him real. Did that make sense? Analyze it. Oh, Christ, no. If he, until knowing otherwise, had thought he were fit and had Fitz's memories and Fitz's attitude to life, and basically had been made to be exactly like Fitz as made no odds, in what way wasn't he Fitz? He lived and breathed and needed food and oxygen, and, hang on, did he? It? The Fitz thing managed to hold its breath for 30 seconds before deciding that it did, and was an actual living being. No, it was a made thing, a construct. But everyone is a made thing. Some are made by a mummy and daddy loving each other very much, and others are made by someone plonking down a whopping great lump of biomass and telling it, be like Fitz. If you'd never known otherwise, or if someone had stuck rotten old real Fitz, Father Kreiner, to a lie detector and proved he was fibbing for reasons unknown, then you'd be Fitz now. The real Fitzgerald Michael Kreiner. No worries. Yeah, ignorance had been bliss. But the Fitz thing wasn't ignorant anymore. He knew exactly what he was. Hang on, he had just thought of himself as he again. Oh, and again! Old habits dying hard. Or an acknowledgement that he didn't have to have been physically born of Fitz's mother to be a person, not a thing. His earliest memory was of a trip to the zoo. He'd laughed at the monkeys, and his dad had brought him a paper bag of peanuts to feed to them. There was a man with a monkey on the beach, and the monkey would sit on your shoulder, and you could have your picture taken. No, that was a different memory. But he remembered the photo, black and white with a white border, a bit creased, showing the small Fitz in his school blazer, scruffy curls and cheeky grin, the monkey in its little hat gripping his collar. The monkey's hat had been red, although you couldn't tell that from the photo, obviously. His mum had kept that photo by her bed, right up until His mum had kept that photo by her bed, right up till when she'd gone off to be a test case for Dr. Rowley. He remembered Rowley's place too, and how he'd met the doctor there, and the girl called Sam, who he had fancied, and how the police thought he'd killed a man, so he'd hitched a ride in a time machine to get out of North London, 1963. He remembered all these things. And he knew exactly how Fitz would react in any given situation. That is to say, sometimes he didn't, but that was because he was frequently useless and faffed around a lot, which was probably what Fitz would do too, so in a way he did. He thought he was Fitz, deep down inside. The doctor, he was pretty certain, thought he was Fitz. But what did the doctor know? They were back in the TARDIS. I wonder what Sam would have made of all this, Fitz had said casually. You wouldn't get a Volkswagen Beetle in here now, would you? Sam? The doctor had said in an, oh yes, just give me a minute tone. Someone you were travelling with when I met you? Fitz had prompted. The doctor had given him an, of course, look, and slapped his forehead theatrically. Oh, Sam, of course. What a guy, eh? Always tinkering around with that beetle. And Fitz had realised that things definitely weren't back to normal, not by a long way. Anji. Anji thought he was Fitz, because she had never known him otherwise. And he was willing to bet that if he had looked up Sam while he'd been waiting for the doctor to pick him up, she'd have thought he was Fitz too. After all, Sam had had identity crises of her own, and she had come through them okay. When Fitz had been James Bond, or Simon Templar, or Frank Sinatra, he'd still been Fitz. Surely it would be much easier now to still be Fitz when Fitz was the person he was pretending to be too. Did that make sense? Shush, we're nearly on the brink of a decision. Fitz was this guy who liked a laugh and a joke, fell in love far too often, but pretended to himself he didn't feel that deeply really, played the guitar like a dream, hid from the world behind other personalities, because in them he could be more confident, more alive, more cool, more the kind of guy he wanted to be. He'd laugh in the face of danger, but only if it was impossible to run away. Though he'd found he'd risk things for the doctor, the only person in the world, really, he'd do that for. He was this guy. Therefore, he was Fitz. Whatever he may have been before, however he had been created, he was Fitz. Yes! Then he imagined how he, Fitz, would feel if he'd been abandoned for 2,000 years because the doctor had found a copy just as good as the real thing and ended up whimpering in the corner again. Handstrom came back into the throne room. It's true, he told the president. The girls are gone. There are only androids. The doctor gave the president an I told you so look. I never dreamed their skills were so far advanced, Handstrom was saying. Oh, they've been able to build realistic androids since they were tots, and we saw the astounding specific physical resemblances they could create when they built their doubles, as we thought, for the center. But these, the simulated personality, add a copy of the memory, and you've got something that is, in essence, indistinguishable from the real thing. He seemed to be half talking to himself, worried. It is astounding, isn't it? Said the doctor. Downloadable memory, very impressive. But now we've all been astounded, could we just pop to the center and turn off the rest of the androids before they kill anyone? The president waved a hand. If my daughters are in there, then yes, Handstrom, go to Earthworld and bring the girls out. Do whatever you have to do. The doctor waved at him. What about me? The president turned. Guards, take the prisoner back to the cells. Hang on, the doctor was most indignant. You need my help. Handstrom, the president said, is my chief technician. I am quite sure he does not need the help of a saboteur. The doctor produced his trump card. How about the help of a saboteur with a sonic screwdriver? He pulled the metal wand triumphantly from his pocket, like a rabbit from a hat. I can make things much easier for you, I'm sure. Besides, I have friends of my own to rescue. The president snorted. I'm already agreeing to you ruining Earthworld, the greatest achievement this planet has ever seen. The only thing that's given us any hope. Why don't I just let you get on with doing a thorough job of destroying it? Handstrom, take the doctor with you. I'm going to visit my wife to tell her... He stopped for a moment, then visibly pulled himself together. To tell her about our daughters. Hoover stood up, suddenly looking older than he had done before. The doctor grinned his thanks and slapped Handstrom companionably on the back. Handstrom seemed to be thinking of something else. The door banged open. "Hello, Fitzfortune. Leave me alone. That's no way to talk to your fans, Fitzfortune. And you don't want to upset your fans, do you?" "I don't care," said Fitz. Then he remembered the man being ripped apart by the lion and the look on the triplets' faces as he had died, and said, "No, I don't want to upset my fans. Sorry." He sat up. The trip in the room with him was wearing a green "Fitzfortune is fab" t-shirt, and so he was pretty damn sure it was Antarctica. "Listen, I'm not who you think I am, really." She giggled. "Don't be silly. I'm not... I wasn't really a star back on Earth, you know. I wasn't as big as Elvis. I wasn't even as big as Elvis's small toenail. I played once or twice a week in a small club in Soho, and never even pressed a disc. That was it." Antarctica giggled some more. "You are funny, Fitzfortune. I know that can't be true, because if it was, I'd have to let Africa have you, and that wouldn't be very good, would it? After all, you are my favouriteest singer of all time ever." She gazed off into the middle distance. "Africa puts knives under people's toenails. She likes that." Torture. Honesty or torture. Self-discovery or torture. Which to choose? The Fitz thing, now Fitz again, became once more Fitzfortune. "Ha ha! Just kidding you, baby. Tell you what, I'll dedicate my next record to you, okay?" Antarctica beamed. "Did you hear the alarm earlier, Fitzfortune?" Fitz hadn't. In serious introspective mode, he probably wouldn't have heard a bomb go off under his nose. "We think it might be your friend's fault." Fitz's heart jumped. "So we've sorted things so they won't get you." His heart sank again. "'Cause you're going to stay with me forever and ever." Fitz's heart reached his boots. "And I'm going to leave Princess Leia to keep you company until we're ready." "Who? Ready for what?" cried Fitz, his heart jumping up slightly at the idea of a princess who wasn't one of the triplets sharing his room. But it sank down even lower than he thought possible when Antarctica dropped her crocodile in his lap and locked the door on them. And there was that ticking sound again. It was coming from the crocodile. Was it a crocodile bomb? Were they trying to blow him up? He pushed the animal onto the floor hurriedly. It just sat there, gazing up at him in what was really quite a cute way for a reptile, and ticking. Fitz thought about crocodile, and about the loose grip on the realities of history that most people on the planet seem to possess, and then shook his head in recognition. He picked up the little crocodile and gave it a rueful, if somewhat wary, hug. "They're quite mad, aren't they?" he said to it.